So this is Addison Herron-Wheeler with Cronos Compulsion, and you're listening to the Brutally Delicious podcast.
1, 2, 3, 4. The Brutally Delicious podcast. The Brutally Delicious podcast. The Brutally Delicious podcast. The Brutally Delicious podcast.
So anyway, where are you guys located geographically? I don't know if I know that.
We are in Denver, Colorado.
Okay. So I'm in Richmond, Virginia. How cold is it there? Is it still cold?
Me and my husband are from Richmond, Virginia. The band founder and me. Yeah. Here it is. It's nice today. It's like going to be in the 60s.
Oh, beautiful.
Yeah.
Here it's supposed to be 85 here today.
Wow. Yeah. It's kind of the same like latitude, but I don't miss the humidity. I grew up in Virginia, lived there until I was in my mid-20s. So Quite familiar with the climate there.
Nice. So let's start here. For those not familiar, and I guess let me back up a second. One of the reasons I love doing the show is I come across lots of bands that I've never heard of before or slipped through the cracks or whatever. And it's always nice to find guys like you, or bands like you. So with that being said, for those who are not familiar, can you give us like the 2-sentence elevator boardroom pitch of who Cronos Compulsion is?
Yeah, I would say Cronos Compulsion are unconventional death metal from Denver, Colorado. Kind of started out more in the death doom camp and gotten a little more chaotic since then, gotten a little back to our doom roots. Really, we're just trying to be, weird, creative death metal, not keep ourselves in a box and not take ourselves too seriously and have fun, even though we have a more serious message.
So, death metal, definitely known for like being very horror themed and very that gore kind of themed or whatever. How in the world do you mix paleontology and archaeology into something death metalish that works? What's the background there? Why? How do you translate it?
Well, I wish that my husband was able to do this interview. He's in grad school, so he had to run off its finals week. So that's why he's not here, but he's a scientist. He's right now he's doing more microbiology, but he has a big interest in, paleontology, historical science, conservation science. He's an environmental scientist, and that's just what he's passionate about. And also just kind of the idea of like caveman riffs and caveman mentality, but instead of that just meaning, okay, ignorant, simple, actually looking at like what was the caveman life like and how does that reflect like these truths about human nature that are still relevant today.
So are you writing then with the stories in mind ahead of time? Or how does that, do you approach it? I've got a story or a history book I'm writing from, or is...
Yeah, so he does do most of the lyric writing. I'm a writer as well because I write some novels and poetry, and I'm a nonfiction writer. But he usually approaches it like he has a concept. Yeah, so he'll, like, for example, something he's interested in, some kind of historical concept or thought that he just wants to carry all the way through, or some kind of story like, what if this was something that someone experienced, thousands of years ago, and he kind of goes from there. Like the name itself, Cronos Compulsion, is I hope I explain it right, but it's like the need to cut up dead bodies, and there's a lot of different reasons behind that they think maybe it was this really beautiful funeral thing, maybe it had to do with cannibalism, maybe it was like, okay, let's not get tracked by these animals, let's like make this safe. Like, we don't know why, but it's a thing, and I think he just thought that was a cool, brutal concept, but also like an interesting historical concept.
Yeah, absolutely. So on top of the historicity then, I heard you mention, is there a message you want your fans to take away from, like after listening to the record?
Definitely, and not to get too political and speak for everyone in the band, because I know we're all our own people, but right. I feel like the title of our upcoming album, Lawgiver, unfortunately couldn't be more spot on with, some of the criticisms against all of the executive orders that Trump's been rolling out. And just kind of the idea behind it is, who are humans to make laws for other humans, and these arbitrary rules and societal constructs that oppress others It started with, some caveman saying, hey, these are the laws, these are the rules, you better follow me, and we're still dealing with that today. So I think a big theme, without getting too like micro political, is questioning, like the classic theme of questioning authority. Who's making these rules? Why are they
That sort of
really
punk
serving
thing.
the best interest? Absolutely, yeah.
That
And I
sort of
come from
punk
a big
ethic.
punk tradition. My dad was a punk. Obviously, I said we both grew up in Virginia, where there's a huge punk scene. So
What I mean, it's timely and it gets the message across. But what do you? I mean, are you getting pushback for that kind of stuff? And how do you think it fits in, or do you not care? Or
so far, no. I mean, we're definitely seeing some reach, and we've toured a bit, and gotten some press, but we're fairly local, and Denver tends to be a pretty progressive place. My day job, I also run the LGBTQ magazine here in Denver. My husband's in academia, so I think our circles, the folks we run with, are usually pretty supportive of this kind of thing. It's also the type of thing where, there's a woman in the band. So I think people just kind of assume we might be a little more progressive. We might not be total meatheads. So far, really no pushback. And I also think we're trying to, it's not that we're not trying to have a clear message, but we're trying to be subtle and still have this aesthetic and, present it as this sort of historical context. We're not just going to have all these, anti-American flag imagery
right?
or something that doesn't
No, I
fit.
get that. I just think
Yeah.
it's interesting because you can't. Nobody can say anything, right? I can't disagree with you. You can't disagree with. I mean, there's like zero tolerance for any sort of see things my way, and it doesn't matter what side you're on. But so it's interesting that it's not causing a scene yet.
Yeah, and I think that's one of the interesting things is that, like, I guess any side, if you want to say it that way, could say, oh no, we're the ones who, are pushing back against the norm. And so there's kind of that gray area. But yeah, you're right. I also think sometimes, like I said, I love punk, but sometimes these super nuanced messages about this one political issue I disagree or agree with hard, those can kind of be alienating, but we're really talking about the human condition. So it feels a little more universal.
And I think music, and you can correct me if you think I'm wrong, but I think music over the generations has sort of like held a mirror to society and said, hey, this is what's going on, right? You had the 60s with the Vietnam and all the other bullshit. And then, in the 70s with the economy and all that. And through the years, you've always had the. So I think that's exactly what you guys are doing, sort of in a way, right? You're just shining a light back and saying, hey, here's where we're fucked up. Sorry, can I say that?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, you're the one who knows this probably isn't FTC rules or whatever, so I'm sure you
Right.
can't. But yeah, no, I think exactly that's what we're trying to do with this. We're like, hey, there's been this condition for, centuries now where someone tries to take power because we're humans and we're sentient or whatever and make the laws for everyone else, even if it only serves them. Wonder if that's still going on today, like that kind of general message. So yeah, I absolutely agree about it being a reflection.
Can we stay on this thread for a second, or do you want to?
Yeah.
Is
No,
this
go
okay?
for it. It's all up to
Because
you.
I
Yeah.
like to, yeah, I like to wander a little bit. I promise we'll get back. But so where do you think AI fits into the whole thing then? Because that's a whole nother thing, right?
Yeah. I mean, that's such a tricky answer because whenever I get asked about AI, I automatically want to put on my journalist hat since I am a journalist and be
Right.
like, I don't use AI to write any of my articles, but I use it for example, because I'm also a
Research.
music journalist, I use it Otter AI for the transcription.
Yeah.
So I don't have to make some intern type out my transcriptions.
Right.
With music, I think art and creativity, to me, it's like there's what would be the point? Like, I just feel like the whole point, especially, I mean, it's death metal. Let's be real. None of us are making our living off of any of this.
Right.
So
Right. Right.
I think it's just really important for it to be like a reflection and an artistic expression. Um, Now, if you're saying, does AI fit into the broader conversation? Like, can it do some good in society? I definitely think it could. Like, I don't think we should dismiss the technology in general. But when it comes to music, yeah, I don't love that we're starting to see, fake metal bands and all this weird
Yes.
stuff that are just made out of AI.
So I'm going to play devil's advocate just for a second because I can, and we're having a. I agree with you on the music. I think that should, and I don't know how I draw my my line in the sand, but that's for sure. But had a conversation with Glenn Beck from Deicide not too long ago, and I don't know if you saw the controversy, but they used AI for their
Yeah.
artwork, and he defended it. And I think I'm an academic as well. I've been going to school for 100 years, just getting degrees because I can get them for free. I work for VCU, the university.
Oh, that's my school. I graduated from VCU.
I'm a police dispatcher there in my real life, and so you could go to school for free. So for the last 20 years, I've been just amassing degrees just to do it.
Nice.
And so I think it levels the playing field a little bit for the underground people because, bands like yourself or whatever can still make artwork that's interesting. And you still have to be some sort of prompt engineer, right? You're not just saying, write me a cover. I think there's a whole field of prompt engineering and that sort of thing too.
Yeah, absolutely. I think like specifically when talking about Deicide, just because I'm a big Deicide fan and a music journalist, so I covered that. For me with that, it was like, okay, we just shelled out a budget to do our album cover. We have way less money than these bigger death metal bands. No. I think with that, it sends more of a message of like, okay, I couldn't pay someone a couple $100 for cover art. And if you're paying a couple $100 to do the prompt, that feels kind of like a cheat. I definitely have, before the whole debate got so crazy, I have seen some AI artists doing prompts that were pretty cool. And I agree. I mean, even just with like the transcription software, the way it learns and now it knows, the different words I use talking about like LGBTQ subculture, metal subculture, that's fascinating and really cool. I also have heard a lot of people with disabilities talk about how it transforms things for like blind and deaf folks, and that is amazing. But I think with art, I think my main issue with the art side of it is less about, are you a true artist or not, and some deep essence, and more about the stealing thing. Because, for example, that's why I don't want to use it for like journalistic or creative writing, because it's just pulling from other people's writing. I'm sure it's doing that too when I do the transcription, but that's just to make sure that they get correct what that person actually said, not to come up with something I allegedly wrote that I really didn't.
Okay. So sorry, I know I went on a tangent, but
no, you're good.
So Cronos Compulsion, you've got some new members in the band. What did they bring to the table, and how do you think it changed, what you guys have been doing in the past?
Absolutely. So first, I do want to shout out our old drummer, John Linsky, just because he's me and my husband's best friend, and he made the band what it was to begin with. So I don't want to discount anything that he did. He totally built the foundation. Zach, our new drummer who came in, absolutely has brought a very amazing unhinged energy. John's a very tight by the book drummer who doesn't like to go off book at all. And Zach is the absolute opposite. He'll just come in and kind of play whatever he wants on stage, and he just has this wild energy. He's also a lot younger than us, transparently. He's 21. We're all in our 30s. So he also brings like a literal like youth energy. So that's just been super transformative in the way that it's given us a lot of just kind of, new direction. Writing with him has been super fun for future material. And then Ray, our second guitarist, also has been an amazing addition. Actually, when we went on tour last May, John, our drummer, broke his arm and had to fly home early. And Ray is also a drummer. I play in another band with him, had to fill in on drums. Really? So he had to basically 3 hours of just listening to the songs, extra attention to the drums, had to switch from guitar to drums. So he's just a versatile, like, I truly believe he could make a career of just filling in bands, guitar, drums. He's learned stuff so fast. He's very smart. And he's brought a lot too in terms of the second guitar, having that layering, more pressure off me to not have to like have all these bass isolations where I don't want them, and just to make the band more cohesive. So really both of them have brought a ton of new life and new energy, which is awesome.
And as far as songwriting too, they contribute to the newer stuff.
Yeah, Zach especially, I think the songwriting process has always been in the past because me and my husband live together. We play music together almost every day.
Hey,
So a
do you go
lot of it.
downstairs and just write like while you're watching TV or eating dinner?
Exactly. Yeah, we're just like, oh, we should go play music real quick before we like put on a TV show or eat dinner or
Hey,
whatever. So he writes a lot of it. I kind of fill in, play off of his ideas, and we kind of come up with stuff. And then we bring it to the drummer. And so that's what we've been doing. But I think Zach is he's also because he's from the band Astral Tomb, who were super jammy. I mean, I've heard them play entire songs and sets of just death metal jamming. So he's very all about just kind of sitting down with us and jamming it out. Ray is kind of a little bit more self-professed type A. He's not a huge jammer, so he'd kind of wait. He likes to wait to hear, when we have it a little more in the
right.
pocket, and then he'll come in and then he'll add some kind of interesting ideas on top of that once it's a little more formulated.
And I think that writing style, that whole jamming in the room, is something that's missing a lot from today's music because it's easy and people are, you can send a file here and there. And I know that works and biggest bands in the world do it. And, I'm sure it sells millions. But I say all that to say, I think there is a difference in, as a music connoisseur, you can hear I think when it was, built that way and it sort of evolves into something rather than here's what we've got, just add a guitar part. Does that make
Absolutely.
sense?
Yeah. I mean, I come from, like I said, from Virginia. So my dad kind of taught me on the whole bluegrass jamming style of music. Let's just
Right.
sit around and play guitar. And I've always done that. And then Will and I always played music that way together, just kind of riffing off each other's ideas. And so it's nice having Zach in the band because he did a similar thing with his old band. And I agree. Some of the best ideas came up with that way, but also just getting together, and it just strengthens your musical chemistry for when you do play on stage and stuff like that.
So what's the plan to take Cronos Compulsion on the road? You got plans?
Yep, we are touring a month from now, end of May. So we will be doing our Midwest tour with Harvested, who is another local band here in Denver. They're great. We're pretty like-minded. One of the members is also a scientist. He's in school for
Oh,
science.
wow.
And their whole thing is environmental science and environmental, like calling,
And death metal.
global warming and
I
all
love
that
it.
stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah, in death metal. So it should be a really fun tour. We're touring the Midwest, which is the area of the country I'm least familiar with. From the East
Right.
Coast, been to the West Coast a ton, live out here. So yeah, super exciting. It'll be a week, just the two of us, city to city.
Nice. That's great.
Yeah.
If fans want to find you guys, where can they do so?
Absolutely. I think both bands are on Bandcamp, both bands are on Instagram and Facebook. Spotify as well. You can stream us on Spotify, pretty much all the usual spots. If you just look up Cronos Compulsion and Cronos with a C, I know there's a bunch of Cronos with a K bands. You can find us pretty easily. And Harvested, especially if you add in Harvested Denver, I think that's their tag on almost everything.
So that's the end of what I had, but I also have I like to end with playing like a few little games that people seem to like. They come across good in shorts, and if you're game and have a sense of humor, I've got like, I don't know, half a dozen questions for you.
Yeah, go for it.
Let's start easy. Is a hot dog a sandwich?
Yes.
It has to be, right?
Yeah, it's bread with meat inside. That's the sandwich.
Right. I just had a conversation with somebody just before you, not going to say who, and we had this argument that there's no way it is. And his hang up was the way it was connected. So if you disconnected it, then all of a sudden it became a sandwich.
But
Which
it
I don't
usually
agree.
falls apart that way anyway. So yeah, I would say it's a sandwich.
Is cereal a soup?
No.
It has to be.
Maybe it is, because what is it?
Gazpacho or borscht or something, right? There's other ones.
So I was going to say because it's cold. So yeah, but I think the argument would be that you don't cook it. And a hot dog's prepared the same way as a sandwich. But a soup, you just you're pouring something on there. You're not making it. That one,
I think that can. I think I can go with that. You're stranded. Not you're stranded. You walk into a grocery store and you head to the checkout. What three things can you bring that make the cashier the most uncomfortable?
Most uncomfortable. Let's see. Like depends, lube, and then a really weird food item like cans of mushrooms.
Are these okay so far?
Yeah.
Okay, couple more for you. Some of these I just have cards from. I pick up trivia cards along the way. Let's see. I don't want to be too offensive. Name 3 cartoons that should be remade into live action films.
Ooh, okay. I'm gonna say Rocket Power. That's my all-time favorite. Ooh, this is a tough one. Not Rugrats, because that would be terrifying. So I'll say Rocket Power, South Park, because that would be hilarious to see,
Yes.
and Rocco's Modern Life. 90s.
I've never
kid.
seen that, but I think I would have to add Beavis and Butthead.
That would be also like very uncanny. I've seen
Did
some
you
of the
see the
AI.
one they did on Saturday Night Live that time?
No, but I've seen like AI where they made real Beavis and Butthead, and it's really scary. They like make the heads look like human
Yeah,
heads. but
Saturday
they're
Night
long.
Live did one just recent. Well, not just recently, in the last couple months, and it was actually really good.
Okay, interesting.
Name 3 activities that can result in a broken bone.
Definitely got to say skateboarding because that's how our drummer broke his arm last year. Parkour and moshing.
All right, 2 more for you. Name 3 items you should never borrow.
Say sex toys, underwear, and I don't want to say deodorant because I do borrow that a lot. Sex toys, underwear, and earplugs. Earplugs is one.
Earplugs is a good one too. Does underwear include socks?
Yeah.
Okay, because I would say socks have to be on there too. I'm not wearing anybody's.
Yeah. Nope.
And then lastly, you're stranded on a deserted island. You got a solar powered player. You can only take 3 records for eternity or whatever you're there for. What are they?
Oh man. Let's see. Say Black Sabbath Volume 4, Pig Destroyer, Prowler in the Yard, and Bruce Springsteen, Nebraska. Those would probably be
you know
my
what?
top.
That's a really, really great album, and I'm shocked you picked that one. That's my favorite one.
Me too. Yeah, my dad was not a fan really of anything like that. He was a punk, but he loved that album, and I grew up listening to it.
I think that's because he did it like in that 4-track kind of spur of the moment sort of thing. So
Yep.
totally not even what we're talking about. But favorite Bruce Springsteen song? I have a clear one. It's The River. The River just is so fucking amazing.
I'm gonna cheat and look up what that song on Nebraska is called because I have a terrible memory recall. But Atlantic City, I knew. I always want to say that it's
Meet
called
Me
Everything
Tonight
Dies.
in Atlantic City.
Yeah, that's my favorite, and it's. I've loved that song since I was a little kid. I had no clue what it was about when I was a little kid, so I don't know why, but it just always spoke to me.
Yeah, no, that whole record is sometimes you get goosebumps listening to it. It's great. The whole story with his brother getting chased to the Canadian borderline, and I don't remember the song titles either, but yeah, I mean that's storytelling at its best.
It really is. Yeah, it's a good one.
Anyway, sorry if I went down a rabbit hole. I'd just like to chat, and thank you so much for your time. I appreciate it.
Yeah, thank you.
Hey, be safe on tour.
Thanks.
Cheers.
Bye.
Bye.